All right, thinking about buying an RV? You are in the right spot. My name's Tim Richardson. I have the privilege of hanging out with you for a little bit here and just downloading as much information as I can, behind the scenes stuff. I had said 5 buying tips. I've got like 8 and a bunch of other ones. So we're gonna jam through a lot of these while we're getting situated and people are getting in here. Find the chat area. That's where you're gonna ask your questions as we roll through this. And hopefully I can answer them. Been doing a lot of virtual RV shows and a lot of webinars, and learned a lot from the guys at RV Wholesalers in different places, and can't wait. So yeah, put in the chat like where you're watching from. I want to know what city. It'll be fun. Winston's in Arkansas. Nice. Love Arkansas. So Hot Springs is an awesome area. And yeah, we're going to get going. So RV buying, navigate the rapids with these 8 important buying tips. If you're like me, you love the outdoors, and I kind of think of it as this is me in the back in the blue, guiding us down this whole, it's crazy, the whitewater, the class 3, class 4, class 5 rapids of buying an RV right now. 2 years ago, I would have said we're just going to cruise down the river on a raft, you know, like no whitewater. But today it's a little different, and you guys are the ones in the yellow helmets up front, and our goal is to keep that from happening. We do not want you to get taken advantage of or really get turned upside down during this time. And so I want to make sure you guys understand all the ins and outs in the buying process. So, and we got lots of people. Robert in Florida, very cool. Hi. And Michael in Texas, Terry in Georgia, Rose in Phoenix. So it's probably morning, or still morning for some of you guys. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, and we have Teresa in St. Louis. We have Jonathan in Brighton, Colorado. He's probably been whitewater rafting like this. Bonnie's out in Jackson, Florida. West Virginia, Joe. Man, we guys are all over the place. This is gonna be fun. Let's dive in. And yeah, this will be recorded, so you don't have to worry about taking all the notes. You can always come back to it. I'll send you a link. About 2 hours after this, you get an email with a link. So that'll be coming your way. And I'm going to throw up a poll real quick. I'm just curious how many this will be your first time purchasing an RV. So I'm going to send that up. You can just answer that, and I'll let you know the results here in a second. So while that's coming in, this is my first RV trip. My dad actually built this little truck topper camper thing. My very first RV, we took it up in British Columbia into Boot Lake, and I'll never forget. Big tree across the road. We had to camp out waiting for the forestry guys to come. And I remember waking my mom up in the middle of the night, like, I want to sleep in an RV. No, I don't want to sleep outside like this. And so we sleep in the back of this thing. Next morning, thank goodness we did, because next morning my brothers found like huge black bear prints. So I like to say like RVs saved my life. So I have a special place in my heart for RVing, and I'm sure you guys do too, or you wouldn't be thinking about buying one. So let's dive in. So make sure you shop for the out the door price. And I'm going to explain what that means in just a second. Looks like the survey's in. We're 50-50 right now. So who wants to break? There we go. Now we're at 52% said yes, this will be the first time purchasing an RV. Now we're at 55%. Yes, this will be your first time. Any others? And yeah, so about 55% of you, this will be your first RV. Very cool. The rest of you probably don't want to make the same mistakes twice, or want to make sure you're more equipped coming into your second purchase. So you know how there was that question at the beginning of this, when you registered, what's one of the fears or questions that you have? And I looked through all those the last several weeks of questions, and it looks like the biggest thing is related to price. So I'm going to focus the first part of our time is going to be a little heavier on the price and hidden fees and all of that, because I really want to dive into that. And that's where I've seen like some crazy things happening this year in the pricing areas. So let's do that. Shop the out the door price. So let me get the slides back here. Okay. So on the out the door price, what I'm saying is make sure you're comparing apples to apples. It's very tricky in this business. For one, a lot of different models and makes have, like, a factory will make two of the exact same models, but they have different names. The only difference is the sticker says Rockwood, or it says Flagstaff, or it says Wildwood, or it says Salem. Same thing, just made in the same place, with the made exactly the same, just different names. And that's because you'll have, say, a big dealership like Camping World or something will have a brand that's only allowed to be called this by them. That way you can't compare it to the exact same thing that somebody else is selling for cheaper or whatever. So so you have to really shop the outdoor price. And not only do the makes the same, what I want you to do is make sure that you know what your final price is going to be. So yes, here's the price of the camper. Say it's $20,000 at dealer A, and it's $22,000 at dealer B. Does $20,000 mean that's the best price? Not necessarily, and that's why I want you to make sure you know all the fees and things that come after that. So when you're doing your pricing, go all the way through. So when you get a sales agreement, and make sure you get a sales agreement, I'll talk about that in a second. When you go all the way through on the pricing, meaning you know the sales tax, you know how much the dock and title fees, how much everything, accessories that you want, how much that whole package is going to be. So that's your out the door price, everything, the last penny that you pay. So I want to make sure you ask for that. A lot of people, I know right now, there's a lot of pressure to just like, I need that one. That one's in stock. I want that one. And then you put down a deposit, they get it ready for you. And then when you show up, the $20,000 camper now is $27,000. And it's like, ooh, yeah. But a lot of people aren't asking when they put down their deposit for a sales agreement with all this in writing. So make sure you ask for that. I can't tell you how many people have done this. A lot of the guys at RV Wholesalers, and I'll talk about them real quick. So RV Wholesalers, I'm not employed by them, but they asked me, the owners of RV Wholesalers asked me, it's like, hey, Tim, we were school teachers, and both the owners, Mike and David Durnell, were school teachers before they got into RVs about 20 some years ago. And so they're like, Tim, we can only sell like a few thousand RVs, not 600,000 RVs that are going to be sold this year. And we're seeing a lot of people being taken advantage of. Can you help us? We'll pay you to do webinars, but just help us get the word out that just so people aren't, they know what they're getting into. So that's the motivation behind this. And if they can help you, I'll definitely promote them too. But this is all about getting you equipped and learning from from what I've been seeing. And I love to camp and take my family camping in a lot of different types of campers and so forth. So the out the door price, and then we're going to talk about the hidden fees side of it here shortly. But make sure that, on the hidden fees side, real quick, I'm going to give you a list of all these hidden fees right here. These are just a sample of them. I got a couple of the most popular ones that we're seeing. So I'm going to download this to you right now. Let me get this clicked up here. So files, I'm going to share this. So this is a one-page PDF. It's over there by the chat area. You should be able to download this. This is for you guys. It's free, obviously. That way you don't have to write all this stuff down. But these are fees you're going to want to make sure you know about before you give them your deposit. So, but the number one fee that I'm seeing right now is this one right here, the PDI. It's number one on the list here. PDI. That's the kind of the lingo that it's often referred to. It means pre-delivery inspection. And the reason I bring this one up first, because I can't tell you, I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of dealerships that this is just one of the fees. It's around, it could be around $1,400, $1,800 we're seeing. Real common in the chain, the big chain of Camping World stores. Not that I don't want to get into a bunch of dealerships, but this is a very popular one, PDI inspection. So what is it, and should I pay for it or not? And it's not a hidden fee if you know about it and you put that into your budget. Like, okay, this trailer is $20,000 plus $1,400 for a pre-delivery inspection plus dock and title plus taxes. It's $28,000 out the door, and you're fine with that. No, that's not a problem. Where it is a problem is when these things show up, and this is how it happens. You don't know about these hidden fees like PDI, and which we'll explain here in a second. You don't know about this until after you arrive. You know, you've already told the salesperson you want that RV. You put down your deposit. Then they say, oh, we need X number of days to get it ready and prepped and ready for you. And we'll have you guys come in and we'll do a walkthrough, and or maybe months, you know, while it's being built, we'll build you that custom RV. It'll be just like you want it, the colors, everything, be beautiful, and then you come in. So you get the call, it's scheduled, you come in that day, you bring in your family, like everyone's excited, like we get to learn about our RV, we get to, you know, finish the paperwork, and then we'll take this thing home. And so here's kind of how it plays out. They start with the walkthrough. They always start with the walkthrough. They want to get you excited about that RV because that's your baby, you know. You worked hard for that. And so they will do a walkthrough, and sometimes, and make sure they don't charge for that. I can't tell you how many people I've heard too that they've been charged for a walkthrough. Walkthrough, basically, they'll bring in one of their guys that knows everything about setting up an RV and camping and all that kind of stuff, and they'll explain everything, like how to bleed the gas, the propane through for the first time on your stove so that the pilot will light, and that kind of stuff. How to turn on your heater, how to defrost your fridge, all that kind of stuff. That's all part of a walkthrough. And actually, make sure you take your camera and a video, you know, and just tape that whole thing. I guess they don't use tape these days, but record that whole process so that when you're camping, it's like, oh yeah, what did he say to do? Like, where's that hot water heater relief valve, or where's that? You can just rewind and play that part. So make sure you do that after you buy it and you do a walkthrough. Then the walkthrough, a lot of times, you're all excited. Your kids are picking out their bunk beds, or the dog has found a place to sleep, and like everything's just the way you're hoping. And then you go and you sit down and do the paperwork. The finance, the people, they take you into the closing room. It's like page 1, page 2, sign here, sign. You know, it's like a house. You know, it's got all these, especially if you have a loan on it. And you're going through, and then they get to this last page, and then you're like, what's the PDI? What's the $1,600 for? What's the walkthrough fee? Why is that $600? What, you know, it's like, what are you gonna do at that point? So paperwork's done. You're already totally stoked about this new RV. That's where they have you. Okay. So you're like, they're not going to back down on the fees at that point and say, oh, well, we'll just take that off there. There's no way. They have, and they'll say this, we've got 3 other people for this camper. Like, if it's fine, we'll give you back your deposit, which they didn't used to do that a couple years ago. And now this year they are, but we'll give you back your deposit. We understand this is more than you expected. Sorry about that. It's just, you wanted a PDI. You wanted us to inspect it, right? But it's okay. We have 3 other people we can call right now that are waiting for a camper like this. They'll come in today and buy this one. So we understand. And they put the pressure on. It's like, well, yeah, what are you going to do? You're going to go wait 3 more months for another one to be built, or are you going to leave? It's like, they have you. It's like, and I can't tell you how many people are just like, okay, well, I guess it's $5,000 more than expected, and they're okay with that. So don't be okay with that, but you don't have to wait to that point. That's why I want you to ask the questions first. Get it in writing, okay? It's like, this is exactly what the out-the-door price is going to be. I'm going to pay $22,530. These are the accessories I get. These are the the taxes I'm going to pay, the dock and title fees I'm going to expect, and boom, 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 all spelled out. And then you say, if this changes by $1, I have the right to get my deposit back, and something like that. That helps them know too, like, hey, you want to know everything up front. So don't be afraid to ask. I mean, it's a little uncomfortable, I know. And for some of you, that might be really hard. Maybe have your spouse do it. But yeah, don't be afraid to do that. So PDI, pre-delivery inspection, that is about 100 to 180 point inspection. A lot of times I know RV wholesalers, I see the guys up there with iPads, and they're just like, check, check, check. And they're going through a list. And it's everything. I mean, they're putting water on the roof to make sure the seals don't leak into the inside. I mean, it's very, very well done inspection. You definitely want this done. Should you have to pay for it? I don't think you should. Like, here's why I don't think it should be something that they should be allowed to charge for, and that's why I think you should tell them up front, like, hey, I need you to do a PDI, but I can't justify paying for that because, and here's why. So it's built at the factory. The factory does their quality control and stuff. Then they send it to the dealership. They ship these to the dealership one by one. Like, there's no like semis with 10 of these things on it. It goes one by one to a dealership. So whether you're in Florida or you're up in Cleveland like I am, they come and yeah. So it's I just lost my train of thought. So when these things arrive, it's I think it's the dealership's last, it's kind of their way of doing another quality control check after it goes across the road. So I think that the manufacturer should have to pay for that. It's almost like the second wave of quality control. And you should, I just don't see why we have to pay for something like that. It's great. A piece of trim comes off, they put another screw in it when it bounces across the road. But the factory is paying the dealership full warranty dollars. Like, they're paying their full shop rate. Like, it's not like they're only getting them a little bit and the dealership doesn't want to do the work. They're getting paid full amount to fix anything. So why should they pass that fee on to you? So it's almost like they're double dipping. I feel like they're charging the factory to fix things or for that, and they're getting money to do these inspections for them, and then they're turning around and charging a customer. So make sure you know about it. If it is going to be charged, add it into your out the door price so you're comparing apples to apples. Number two, Teresa asked, do all sellers require PDI payment? No, I know RV wholesalers, they definitely don't, and I know there's other dealers, but make sure you ask. That would be one of your very first questions, because it usually is a big charge. So you need to know if you need to add that on, especially if you go to RV shows. There's a big one going on today. It started yesterday up in Hershey, Pennsylvania. It's the biggest RV show in the country. A lot of times for shows cost so much for a dealership. Like, I always thought, like, go to a show, get the best deal. The convention center, they have one at the IX Center in Cleveland, huge show. They didn't have it last year, but think about it. That dealer has to pay to transport all the RVs there. He has to pay to get them all cleaned. He has to pay union guys to move them into position. He has to pay the rental space, which that's a lot of space. If you think of $2,500 for a little 10 by 10 booth, which is typical for a convention center, now you're multiplying that times 30 by or 40 feet by 10 feet by 10 RVs. I mean, ends up being $200,000 easily. Time you add the hotels and the overnights for all the staff and the meals, and I mean, it's a very expensive thing. So that's a lot of times that shows is when they definitely will charge these PDI fees. That's kind of where they make up their show fees. A little inside secret. They kind of get together before the show. It's like, hey, how much are you guys going to charge for the to cover the cost of this show? So that's kind of how they make up that. So it's really not necessarily the best deal at shows. And yeah, Darren says, doesn't manufacturer pay for the booth? The manufacturers, sometimes they will help subsidize. So say it's $100,000. Yeah, sometimes if they haven't done it too much, dealership will get funds from the marketing department of a factory. So, but it doesn't nearly cover the booth. Yeah, it's usually a little bit, and so yeah, some of that's underwritten. Good point, Darren. Tim Moran asked, are these fees applicable to used RVs? That's a good question. So they probably will have some kind of inspection fee, but if you're buying from an individual, obviously there won't be these fees. You're going to want to, and we'll talk about used in a second, about getting your own private inspector. You're definitely going to want that. It's a few $100s, but it's worth it. And yeah, so good question. Back real quick on a couple more hidden fees. Transportation is another one. I want to make sure you guys do the math, figure out, okay, since pretty much all RVs are built in Elkhart, Indiana, that area, a couple those counties around there. But if you just type in Elkhart, Indiana, do the math, how far is it, like for Darren, to New Jersey or down to Stephen and Myrtle Beach, or do the math. Texarkana, Texas, or figure out how many miles that is. So say it's 1,000 miles to Robert down in Wildwood, Florida, from Elkhart, Indiana. So you would expect the shipping, and this can vary a lot, but it's independent shippers. These guys will haul the RVs down there for dealerships. So dealerships don't usually have their own fleets. And so they will hire a company that will basically take it from Elkhart to the dealership. And that's maybe $2 a mile they pay for that. It can vary based on speed and not speed, like how fast they go, but like how short of a time frame they need and stuff. But it's about that. So if you see someone, instead of charging $2,000 on top for the transportation fee, they may charge $5,000. That's another area where they pad in a lot of profit because they know you can't figure out how much it really costs them to get it down there. So I want you to understand this, because if you are buying in Florida at a dealership, they either have to have that price separate or they put that price into the trailer. So if we're back to the $20,000 trailer and there's $2,000 added on for the transportation to get it to that dealership, they're either going to put that in. So in Florida, if you buy it, it's $22,000. If you bought that same trailer, RV wholesalers say it's $20,000 or $20,300 because their transportation fee is only $300-400 to get it to Ohio from Indiana. So that number has to be in there somewhere. Whether they eat that cost and hide it that way is fine, but you just need to know that that's included, and you can find out kind of the difference between buying it in one place and buying it another. But do the math and make sure you're not getting taken advantage of it. Like, it shouldn't be thousands of dollars. But good point. If you can make sure they separate on the final paperwork so that you know how much that transportation fee is, because you shouldn't have to pay sales tax on that. So you do have to pay sales tax, unfortunately, on a purchase like this, an RV purchase, and you pay the sales tax in the county of your residence. So your main residence. So if you're in Florida 3 months, but your main residence is in Minnesota, you're going to pay in your county in Minnesota your sales tax. So, but yeah, you shouldn't have to pay sales tax on the transportation part. So if it's $2,000 for transportation, make sure they take that off, so you're not paying sales tax on that too. So some little extra bonus points to remember that will save you money. Bear with me, I'm just getting over a cold. But number 3, environmental fees and tire replacement fees. These are just weird ones that, unless a dealer is pretty unscrupulous, you're not going to see these, hopefully. I hope you don't see these, but they are kind of weird. Like, I've seen dealers in Florida, for example, they move it from the factory to Florida and they have to go across the road. So it's, say, 2,000 miles or 1,000 miles. Sometimes they'll just put new tires on it so that they can charge you $1,200 for new tires when it costs them $400 for new tires, and make an extra $800. And it's not necessary. Like, there's these tires that come on all these, everything I've seen. I mean, there's been some stories in the past where they were using super cheap tires, but nowadays they're your 30,000, 40,000 mile tire, but they've also got tire pressure monitoring on most of these new trailers and RVs. And so if something's going to happen, it alerts you like while it's heating up. So it's not like this big blowout and dangerous blowout. So it's not necessary. It's just another way to make money. Dock and title, number 5. That one is, you're going to pretty much every state, you're going to see a number there. It could be a few $100s, should be a few $100s. I'm not sure state's got some weird fees, but for the most part, expect there be a dock and title fee. I know RV wholesalers like $295 or something like that. But yeah, so plan on that fee when you're budgeting. So, and all these aren't hidden if you know about them, and that's why I'm saying that make sure you ask. Like, don't be afraid. And let's see. I'm just checking the comments here. Wayne had a Class C for several years, or Winston lived in it for over a year. Cool. Teresa asks, so better deal with current year model RVs or last year? Ooh, that's a good question. Do you get a better deal with? Yeah, I mean, If there's any last year models right now, like if there's a last year model, that means it's overpriced because there's so much demand right now. Nothing should be left unless they priced it too high. So um, let's talk a little bit about pricing because this is an area we need to spend a little bit of time before we move on to quality. So I want to make sure we understand pricing because just like anything, every industry, there's been price increases. Okay, so in the RV industry this last year and year and a half, we've seen a number of like incremental, hey, 2%. We'll get these emails from the factory reps, and I'll get a copy of them. The RV wholesaler guys will forward them to me. And what I'm seeing is like every month or 2 months, there's been just a little increase. But if you take all those, there's been more increases in this last year than there has been in like 6 years combined previous years. So there are little incremental increases every month or 2 months. It'll be 2%, and then it'll be 3%, and then maybe another 2%, and a 5%, or not 5%. Usually it's like 4%, but they really add up fast if you start going backwards. So it's like 16% for that RV over last year. So definitely the prices are going up. And so the next question is, when I buy, say you order an RV, and that they're putting out 2022s right now, just so you know, Teresa. So if you're ordering a 2022 today, and you go to them and you pick out exactly the colors you want, everything you want it to be, accessory wise, and they place the order, what happens is at the factory, I'm just going to throw out a name, Rockwood, for example. So at the Rockwood factory, an order comes in for you, Teresa, and it has your name on it. They say, okay, we're going to put that order in front of all of the orders for stock units. So dealerships right now, if you look at any dealership, their lots are probably empty for the most part. They may have a few scattered around up front to make it look like they have more, but just like cars and everything else, like right now, it's pretty much empty. All their stock units sold. If they're selling them at good prices, they're all sold. And so if you make a custom order, instead of the factory building all the stock ones, like I know RV Wholesalers has a couple of thousand on order, because normally they have 600 or 700 on their lot. They have 50 on their lot, maybe. So your order will go ahead of all their stock, all these dealership stock orders. So even though they have thousands on order, and with Rockwood, they may have, I don't know, several hundred or 400 or 500 on order, your individualized, like personal order will actually jump in front of the line. So that's a good thing. So they are putting priority on that, and they are, but say it takes 2-3 months before it's totally built and comes off the line. It's not till then that the factory charges the dealership. So the dealership, the day it rolls off the line is the day the dealership will actually pay for Teresa's motorhome or her travel trailer. So that what's happening though is she placed an order for a $20,000 travel trailer, but 3 months later it came off the line. The dealer just got charged an extra $4,000 because of the price increases during those 3 months for that RV. So what are they going to do? They're going to pass it on to you as the customer. So that's the last thing I want you to look for in your sales agreement. Is there all these dealers are putting, almost all of them are putting a clause in the end of the contract or the sales agreement that says this price may vary based on factory price increases or something to that effect. So make sure you look for that. If you can get them to take that out and say, hey, this is what drives me nuts. Like, what other industry or anything would you ever buy something? It's like, and have that clause be allowed, It's like, I'm going to pay $20,000 for this travel trailer, and when it comes, I'm going to pay $20,000. Not like when it comes, like, I'll pay whatever you tell me I need to pay. It's like, who does that? Like, what other industry can you raise the price and get people to pay for it? So don't have this conversation up front, and don't get, it drives me nuts that they can do this. I know RV Wholesalers had those guys, and this is not supposed to be a big push for them, but what they do, and hopefully more dealers are doing this, is they're doing price protection where they say, no, we have an agreement. If we tell you we're going to sell it for $20,000, it's going to be $20,000 when that thing arrives. If we have to eat the price increases, we'll eat the price increases, but we're not passing those to a customer because that's not right. So have that conversation, price protection. Yeah, just know that there's going to be increase. And this is why I have a problem with it so much, is that I've seen dealerships where they'll call up halfway through the manufacturing process and they'll say, hey, Teresa, just so you know, it's going to be a little bit more. There's been a price increase of $1,500 from the factory. What we'll do is, I know you weren't expecting to pay that. We'll meet you halfway. So you pay $750, we'll pay $750, and we'll just kind of split that. So that's what I've heard some dealers doing. And then when they split, the reality is the price increase was $750. It was a 2% price increase. So they actually got the full money from the person. And, so that's what I'm saying. There's no way to prove how much the price increase was from the factory, because pricing from the factory is so dependent on so many different things. That dealership, if they sell 100 units of that particular model from that manufacturer, then that manufacturer will give them a rebate and different things. Like, there's no way you can figure out like how much they actually pay. It's not like a car industry where you get this, like in the car industry, you have an invoice that's regulated by the government and it's, very spelled out. You know exactly what the factory charge was. It's not like that in this industry. You can't really see this, but down at the bottom of this invoice, excuse me, just a second. All right, sorry. Down at the bottom of this invoice, it has a suggested retail price, $26,439.30. Now, that would be what we call the MSRP. Some of the trailers come from the factories. They don't even have that. Like, the dealerships just make up their own sheet and they can put whatever price on there. That number is really inflated. Right now, in the RV industry, quite a few dealers are actually getting that suggested retail price right now. That price, so there's that price. And Bonnie just asked, can you buy directly from the factory and bypass? Unfortunately, no. There was one dealership called Nexus that did that until about 2 years ago for motorhomes, but now they're 100% no factory buying. It all goes through dealerships. But yeah, so you have MSRP, and then the other price that they have for RVs is the MAP price, MAP. Excuse me, one second. Okay, let's keep going. So the MAP price is the minimum advertised price. And that's the other number. It's a very low number, and that means no dealership is allowed by the manufacturer to put a price that's lower than the MAP price. So you've got the MSRP up here, and then you've got the MAP. Like, you do not, if you advertise below this number, we'll pull your line of RVs that we supply you. The manufacturer says this. We'll pull this from you. And they're very tight on this. Like, they don't want you say advertising that $20,000 trailer for $15,000 if the MAP price is, say the MAP price is $16,000, and if you listed it for $15,000 on a website, they'd be very angry. They would pull that whole line of RVs from that dealership. Boom, done. And so MAP is very serious. That's their low price. So if you go below MAP, and dealerships do sell below MAP on a regular basis, or, well, I don't know how many of them do, but I know RV Wholesalers is pushing down there. But what they have to do to sell below MAP is, that's why if you go to like their website, they don't list the prices. They say you have to basically sign in, and you can get a lower price from RV Wholesalers, for example, or from a dealership as long as they have a relationship with you, and they consider a relationship is they have your contact information. So that's why sometimes you go to websites and they won't show you a price if if it's below map, they can't. So just be aware of that. So that's why it's not like they have a really high price and they're trying to get your information before they tell you this really high price. It's kind of the opposite. So so that's map price. But yeah, with these price increases, make sure you know if they're going to charge you those, because you do not want surprises. And that's what's happening is the price is going up $5,000 or whatever the number is. It's a lot. You don't want to be caught off guard when you go to pay for it or sign the final loan document. So, all right, enough about pricing. Quality, what to expect. Excuse me. I know that's a big question. There's a lot of RVs being made, like they're putting out crap. And so I go to the factory. I went 2 weeks ago with cameras. I'd go in cameras because we film a lot of stuff for shows, virtual RV shows. In fact, we have one coming up in about 2 weeks of virtualrvshow.com. And so I like to look, we take our cameras in, see the whole build process. Sometimes we even show that during the shows and stuff. So we record all this stuff and we ask questions like, so what kind of inspections do you do and all that stuff. And well, let's just lay the groundwork first. It's unlike the auto industry where you have hundreds of millions of dollars invested into the R&D side, where they engineer all this stuff and they have teams and then they test it and they battle test it and they run it across proving grounds, and then they turn it into a product, and then they have robots build it all, so it's precisely built. Obviously, an RV is more like a house. It's like, you have craftsmen that build it, but it's real people building this thing. And so you're not going to have the same level. I guess what I'm saying, I don't want to get your hopes up. I'll never have on this, I'll never have to take this thing in for repairs or whatever. If you're bouncing a house across the road, think about how your house needs maintenance and always has issues. If you're a homeowner, well, multiply that times, a few factors, because you're taking it across a bounty road all the time. So, so take that in consideration when you're picking out what type of RV quality that you want to go for and budget for. So, but the good news is, and I don't want this to be all squelch your dreams of being out in nature, because it's totally worth it. The good news is that when I saw what I've seen in the last year at the factories, in fact, even 2022, I'm going in hey, show me all the 2022 models. And these guys are like, sorry, Tim, these are 2022s. They just came off, but there's no changes. So number one, they've been focusing on really taking their, instead of making a bunch of new changes this year, hey, let's actually scale back our floor plans. Let's get rid of, instead of having 200 floor plans, let's have 75 this year. So they've been scaling back on floor plans. They kept them the same. They're like, man, why if we're having to keep up with all this volume of orders, let's not add more things to the mix. Let's not have more issues with trying out something new that could, not be the right fit or not work out long term. Let's just go with what's been working. So I've been impressed. I was like, that's good. So I was glad to hear that coming from the factories. Hey, not that many changes this year. We're scaling back floor plans and we're going to focus, which is good, because as you look at the factory, before they would do 2-3 hours of one type of floor plan, crank out 10 or 15. They switch, have a whole new floor plan. How do these guys keep this straight? I don't know how they did it. So now I see them, they're running multiple days on the same floor plans, which I think is a good idea for quality wise. So I think it's going up a little bit. Yeah. And these guys, Darren said, these guys have been doing this forever. So for them to, this is pretty second nature. And it's kind of cool. I keep picking on Rockwood, but their factory, for example, is in Amish town, Millersburg, Indiana. And they have they have workers there. Grandpa's still working at the factory 30 years later. His son and his son they'll have like 3 generations of craftsmen like still all working together. It's pretty cool. It's not, yeah, it's not like they're not, they never added like a 3rd shift. I thought, oh man, they're just cranking it out. They just have kept their normal workforce, tried to get as many people as they can to work. Like anything, struggling, but yeah, they've never added 3rd shifts, not even late. Like I don't think they go past, most of those plants just kind of shut down at their normal time, 6 o'clock at night, you know, from like, they do like a 12-hour day. So yeah, they're not just like going crazy. They're just cranking out a lot of junk. So that's been good. All right. So, when you're making your decision, so a lot of you guys, I know for me, it's kind of overwhelming. There's so many options. Kind of start with the basics. So RVs is the whole class of everything we're talking about. So that includes motorhomes. I always thought an RV was a motorhome, or a motorhome was an RV. Motorhome is an RV. It's under the umbrella of RVs when I talk about them. So you've got class A, B, and C. You know, if you know what those are. The class B is the little conversion van type thing, and then the class C is on a truck chassis, and then class A is like the big bus, you know, with the motor, you know, the diesel pushers and all that kind of stuff. So you have the motorhomes, and then you have the travel trailers. Excuse me just a second. Okay. So on the travel trailer side, you have park models, which if you're not driving it, if you're only taking an RV like one time and parking it somewhere for the whole season, a park model is great because you get extra space and all that kind of stuff. Then you have like toy haulers, or if you need a ramp to put a toy up in there, like a golf cart or a 4-wheeler or something like that, those are great. Or you can make it into like a like a party deck or like a patio that you can extend out over the river or your campsite. And those are pretty cool. So then you have hybrids, which is kind of like a combination of travel trailer and like a pop-up tent kind of. It's kind of got a hybrid of both types of things going on, soft-sided and hard-sided. And then you've got your basic travel trailer, 5th wheel, which obviously have special towing. So pick out your type. Number 1. Number 2, if you are on the travel trailer side, then you have to pick out your truck or your tow vehicle. So make sure you know what your towing capacity is. I'm going to give you a little tool. It's called Towing Calculator.org. Just put that in the chat. Towingcalculator.org. It's a little site I put together where it has all the different trucks for like the last 10 years, 12 years actually. And you can pick your engine size and all that stuff, and it'll tell you exactly how many pounds you can tow. So if you haven't got a truck, then you can kind of start with what trailer you want and then figure out, you know, what size truck you need, vice versa. So that'll help with that. So once you've figured out towing capacity and what you can tow it with, then another question is RV construction type. So there's basically 2 types of RV construction. On the left, conventional. It's got the wood framing, built like a house. Actually, they come in with a chassis and they just build up the walls and everything just like a house. Put insulation between it, put aluminum siding on the outside, which is easy to replace if if they need to, if it gets dented or something like that. You can replace one strip instead of having to redo a major thing. So that one's a little easier on the budget. Laminated construction, here's an example. This is actually a roof, but they take aluminum, it's like tube aluminum, and they build the walls and the roof supports out of that, and they weld it all together. And then they take the outside fiberglass, all those things in that layer, and then they have the insulation put in between, and then they sandwich it all together, vacuum press it with laminates and everything, and then this becomes a solid wall. If you're doing a lot of bouncing around, that's a really helpful type of construction, and it's real solid. Like with the fiberglass on the outside, like I've gone up and just like as hard as I can, like throw a fist or like the back of my hand on a camper that's built with that, and it just bounces off. Like it doesn't dent it or anything. So you can't do that on aluminum, obviously. But but you have to pay a little more for that. So that's one of the decisions. Next decision you have to make is your floor plan. And like I was saying before, a lot of RVs share the same kind of floor plans, but they just have different names. So don't get hung up on the names and the brand so much. Really figure out the floor plan that works for your family or your you and your whoever wants to go camping. So yeah, so don't get overwhelmed with it. Just kind of work it through. You can always sell it next year if you don't. If you follow these guidelines and don't get taken advantage of, and you get it for a good price, you'll be able to make money actually next year. Guarantee it. How to prevent some of you? There's quite a few people that have used ones probably. So make sure, or if you're thinking about buying used, make sure you get an inspector. Like I was saying, here's the two names of two inspectors, types of companies. So Lemon Squad and RVIA, $300-400, and it'll save you a lot of nightmares. Especially water damage is kind of the big thing to look for. So make sure you either buy a moisture sensor or hire somebody like this, go around, check everything, because water can, if they don't, keep up with their maintenance or their seals on the roof, water sneaks in and ruins floor. That's the major cause for totals with insurance and that kind of thing, is because of water damage. So really look for that. Should you buy used or new? That's another question that we get a lot. Think about it. Definitely, if you're, man, I would look at the pricing. A lot of times the used ones are going for so much. You can get into a brand new unit sometimes cheaper than you can buying a used one. When I went camping last October, friends of ours, Chris and Christy, pulled up and they brought in their camper. It was 7 years old, and they were looking at this new one I had, exact same floor plan, and they're like, "Oh, this is perfect." And we paid $16,000 for ours when we bought it used 3 years ago. I was like, "Well, this one's $15,500, and it's brand spanking new, and it had the exact same features that theirs had. Plus, it had all the bells and whistles of the new technology, of 7 years of technology, and the Bluetooth speakers, like all the stuff." So definitely do your homework on whether you should buy used versus new. Sometimes what I'm seeing a lot is people get in a hurry, like, I've got to have this, like, we're going camping in 2 weeks. I put this picture up here. This is actually my family on the front right side. And the reason I put this picture up is because we just went to Gatlinburg, Tennessee. I wanted to take an RV down there. The guys at RV Wholesalers had all theirs out on rental side. I didn't get to take one down when we got camping down in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. But we had an awesome time. Like, we still got to experience nature. We got to do the whitewater rafting a few weeks ago. We got to hike the parks and do all the nature stuff. But we were nestled in the mountains in a resort that we got on Red Week or something. Like, we didn't have to pay much, but we were able to get, like, it would have been awesome for us to be in an RV, but you can wait to get the perfect RV. I'm saying go ahead and place the order, get it going now while you have the time to get ready for the next camping season. And yeah, do some alternatives, rent one, or do something like what we had to do, rent a place at a campground. You could do that. So yeah, because what we're seeing is people are paying $10,000, $15,000 more just to get it now. Like, it's the only one in stock. It's not the perfect fit for our family, but hey, it's available. They grab it, and then they go to sell it later, and they realize, like, oh, we paid too much for this. But I'm going to throw up Eric's number. If you're thinking about selling a used one too, he could help you out. Eric wasn't able to join us today. They were so busy, but usually I like to bring in a guest. Excuse me. Usually like to bring him in or somebody as a guest to answer some of the questions. But Eric can help. If you have any questions beyond what we get to cover, shoot Eric an email, and I'll put it up again here at the end. Eric Leroy, great guy, veteran, everything. But he'll help you. And if you're thinking about selling a used one, RVtrader.com, you pay a little bit, but you can advertise there. That's a good place. Facebook Marketplace, that's probably the best place. Put it on there. People will come from multiple states for these things. It's crazy right now. So do not trade it in. Eric would tell you this, like, yeah, I'll make more money. Like, the dealership will make more money. But yeah, it's in your best interest, and he'll tell you this. It's better off for you just sell it outright. You'll make a lot right now. So okay. Get the most for your trade-in. We just talked about that. Is it best to use Teresa asked if it's best to use a used RV or buy a new one. We kind of talked about that. I think, yeah, if you can wait for a new one, a lot of times you'll see that you'll have a lot less headaches, and you'll be able to get more for your money. So. You're going to want to know the big dealer financing secret. I'm telling you, this is going to save you a lot of money. I'm going to throw to the owner of RV Wholesalers, David. We just recorded this last week. I wanted you to hear what he said about this. This is going to help you a lot. I'm going to get my voice back while he talks for a second and talk to you in just a second here. Let's get him going. All right, this is one of the founders of RV Wholesalers, talking about finance stuff.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. I'm David Durnell, one of the owners of RV Wholesalers, and just wanted to share something with you. You know, years ago when we started RV Wholesalers, Mike and I were both school teachers, so we didn't have a lot of business training or business knowledge. And one thing that really surprised us, even honestly shocked us, was we had done a loan for a customer through a bank, and we get an envelope, a letter from the bank. We open it up, and inside's a check for several $1,000s, right? And we're thinking, man, what's this for? They don't owe us any money. So we finally called the bank and just said, hey, we got a check from you for several $1,000s, right? You don't owe us anything. We want to send it back to you. You know, what's it for? And the bank said, well, if you do a loan for us with one of your customers, we send you a check, right? We thought, wow, this is crazy. I mean, again, it was several $1,000s. We were really shocked, right? And we got to thinking, wait a minute, we've already got our profit margin figured out. We already got, you know, what we want to make. And something just didn't sit right with us about it, you know. The customer is the one that got the loan. They're the one that signed the paperwork. They're on the hook for it. They're the ones making the payment. Shouldn't that be their money? So that's what we started doing it. Today we call it our finance discount, but we give you the money that the bank gives us for completing your loan for them. Question is, why don't other dealers, right? It's available in the boat industry, the ATV industry, the power sports, automobile industry, the RV industry. So if you're not going to buy from RV Wholesalers, and we would love for you to, don't get me wrong, right? But we know we can't sell them all, so that's why we do these webinars. If you're not going to buy from us, make sure you ask your RV dealer, demand from your RV dealer, don't ask, demand that they give you the money that the bank gives them when you complete a loan through them. If they won't, go to your local bank and say, hey, I'm getting ready to buy an RV. If I do the loan through you, what will you give me? I know you're paying participation to dealers. What will you give me? I'm already your customer. Keep my business. So make sure you protect yourself. Make sure you protect your finances, right? But ask the other dealer, I don't care if you're buying a car, an RV, a boat, power sports, whatever it is, what will you give me if I do my loan through you? And then you can take that off the loan that you get in the first place, and it'll save you some money on interest and other things. Hope this was helpful.
That was really helpful. Thank you, David. I'm glad you were able to share that story. So it can be used a lot more than just for RVs, like you said, and that's pretty cool. So I'm glad you were able to hear that. So what that's called is a dealer reserve. So make sure you ask for that dealer reserve. So that will save you, like you said, money for all those different categories. And they have other names, so don't be afraid. I just talked to a friend of mine yesterday. I was at his place, and he was showing me his new car. And he said it worked. He got $1,500 from the car place, which wasn't much, but right now they could sell that car to anybody, so they're not really willing to give up their dealer reserves. But he got $1,500 out of it. But no, yeah, we're talking. It's a lot of money. So on a $100,000 motorhome, it could be $10,000, between $6,000 and $10,000. So like, I mean, we're talking like serious money that comes from the bank back to the dealership. So don't be afraid to ask for that. And sometimes the salespeople don't even know. Like, honestly, I didn't even hear about this until the finance managers really told me about it. But yeah, a lot of times salespeople, you have to go up a level to even be able to have this conversation. Some of the salespeople don't even know that's how they're making extra profit on these things. So, and you probably ask, like, what if I want to pay cash? I've been saving, and how do is there a way to pay cash and still get a good deal? I mean, it doesn't help the dealership any. So what you can do is you can basically, you have a 12-month agreement with the bank. So here's kind of how you work it. It's a 12 months. After 12 months, if that loan is still being paid after 12 months, then that dealership gets that reserve money. So what you do is you pay off. And if you're like me, you don't want to waste money on interest, pay it all off on the very first payment, except for 11 more payments. So say you have $300 payments for 11 more months. You pay off the bulk of the interest and the principal. You pay off almost all the principal, and it's simple interest. So you're only paying a little bit of interest on those last few months, and it ends up being like $150, $200 that you're throwing away, but you're getting thousands of dollars in reserve money from what the bank would give them. So at least I know that's with RV wholesalers. They do it. I don't know that. I don't know if anybody else is doing that, but make sure you talk about that reserve money, and maybe hold that card towards the end. It's like, okay, if I finance with you, how much of that dealer reserve will you give me? Ask it like that. Very good. So last thing, talking about service agreements and extended service contracts, warranties. Some people call them warranties. They're not really warranties, but extended service contracts. I want to make sure you understand those in our last few minutes. Thanks for hanging out with us. And Darren had a question. What should I do if I get a price at the Hershey show? Should I bring it to have RV wholesalers try to be it? True. I would always compare prices. RV Wholesalers is based out of Ohio in the Columbus, about 45 minutes northwest of Columbus, Ohio area. But most of their RVs are sold nationwide. Like, they even have them in Alaska. They have them going to Hawaii sometimes and shipping stuff overseas. But yeah, they've figured out a way to take care of customers all around. So they have and that's my question. It's like, okay, so if I buy one in Cleveland and I go to my local dealership, I buy it, and it breaks down, it's never going to break down like in my yard, like in Cleveland. It's going to be like when I'm in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, according to Murphy's Law, like that's when it's going to break, when my whole family's there and the air conditioner goes out. And so if I call my local guy in Cleveland, like, hey, we're in Gatlinburg, he's like, yeah, bring it in, no problem. Like, we'll get you right in. Like, you bought it from us, we'll take care of you. And yeah, but I'm in Tennessee and I don't want to ruin my vacation. So that's the problem that they had to figure out. Like, how are we going to take care of these people? They're buying all over the country. So they put together what they call the Nationwide Service Network. It's 2,800 and some 2,900 vetted service centers and mobile repair guys that they've used over the years, 20 some years that they've been doing this online, 21 years, I think. And so they, you call concierge, like I would call, it's like, hey, broke down, my AC's not working. Concierge says, no worries, we'll find someone locally for you that can take care of this. They set up an appointment, mobile repair guy comes out, 3 hours later, boom, 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 fixed. I haven't even left the campsite. I mean, that can happen. They can save vacations. So that's how they do it. Nationwide Service Network, that's how they do it. So that's, make sure like, ask the questions, what does service look like? And throw out scenarios at these guys. Like, say I'm here and this breaks. What should I expect from you guys for service? It's not like a car industry where you buy a Ford and you take it to that local Ford dealership and they have to get you in and take care of you. No, like David was just did 2 weeks out west with his family in the motorhomes. They took 3 motorhomes, kept breaking. It wasn't any of their new ones. It was their uncle's old one that kept breaking, but they used their nationwide service network to take care of it. But they started calling before they checked with the nationwide network. They started calling like local guys just to see what they say. They're like, oh yeah, we can get you in 12 weeks. Well, like we're on vacation. Like we can't wait 12 weeks. That's the thing, that nobody's obligated, especially if you haven't bought from them. Without this network, nobody's really obligated to take care of you. So anyways, something to be aware of. So extended service contracts, real quick. There's 2 types. You need to know what the types mean. It's not the brands I'm talking about, but you can get, and I was always taught, like, don't waste your money on these things. Like as a kid, like I didn't, don't pay the extra $10 for that or whatever. In this case, after driving these RVs, and I think they are worth the money. I mean, it may, if you're just parking it, once a year, you're taking it somewhere and just leaving it there, you maybe can get away with it. But if you do end up buying a service contract, make sure you understand the 2 types. So there's one called stated. Stated service contract is it lists out everything on the contract that's covered. So it's stated. What it states on the contract, line by line, is what's covered. Nothing more. But a little bit less. Sometimes if, say, a refrigerator's on the list, which is good because you can't just go to Home Depot and buy a fridge that runs on 12-volt solar and propane and all this kind of stuff. So it's very expensive to buy a fridge. So you want to make sure it's covered. However, on stated contracts, a lot of times something else could damage it, like an inverter goes bad that's not on the list and it damages the fridge. Then now the fridge is out of commission. It's not, has to be covered because it was broken by something that wasn't covered. So a lot of loopholes. Good Sam is kind of, they still stated quite a bit. Sometimes the price isn't that much, but to get kind of the best of the best. And I'll talk about that in a second. So make sure you do homework. Ask, what type of coverage is it stated or exclusionary? Exclusionary is the other type. That's actually the one that pays the bills the best. So remember this name, exclusionary. It's almost the opposite. It's like flipped backwards. So anything on this list is excluded. The whole RV is covered, excluding this item, and this item. And it's things that are pretty much wear and tear items like brake pads and light bulbs, stuff that you should have to take care of or maintain. That's your responsibility. So those are the things that are excluded on the exclusionary. So that's probably your best bet. Make sure you get exclusionary if you really want it to pay the bills. This is just one brand that a lot of dealerships carry, Protective. It doesn't matter, but make sure that you ask for like an A+ rating and do the homework to see what that service agreement is rated, like the company behind it. Ask like who's the financial company behind it, and then do the homework on that. Google it, and you can get a rating for them. It's just like insurance. A+ is what you want. A+. So so that's service contracts. Very cool. It is worth it. I'm going to let me put up Eric's contact information again. And I have something special since you guys hung out with me for so long. The first person to email Eric, the first person to email Eric and put in the text 500, and I'm going to have him give you $500 off if you end up buying an RV right away, like the next day or two. I know many of you are probably on it at that point, but if you take a picture of this, take a picture of this screen right here, email Eric, and you put 500 in the text or in the subject or something, and then he'll pick a winner of the first person that comes in. So screenshot, email Eric, or if you have any questions, email Eric. He'll help you out too. It's been fun, man. I'm glad we had some great questions. And Darren asked, do people usually get deals at shows by what you said earlier about the cost of a show? As I was told, I wouldn't get a deal. I'll tell you another story about shows. So I called, I won't tell you which manufacturer. I called the manufacturer's rep that deals with RV wholesalers, and I said, hey, I'm coming to town next week. I want to do a video shoot. He said, I'm at the Hershey show. And he said, it's been great. Like, there's so many people here. Last year, they just opened Wednesday for the first day. He said, and this was like 3 in the afternoon yesterday. He said, we've already, this dealer's already sold 25. Last year, maybe he sold 10, like the whole day. We've already sold 25. It's not even the end of the day. He said, it's great show. He said, it's been great for me as a factory rep to get to be here and see what the objections and like what people are looking for and like talk to the real customer. So he's loving it. He said, I was surprised, like they're charging full price for this and like nobody complained about price. Like everyone was fine with the prices. Like I keep hearing like prices are too high, prices are too high. He said, not at the show. Like no one's been complaining about it. So I'm just saying, Darren, like, yeah, you can definitely get better pricing. Make sure you do your shopping around. Yeah, if there's certain floor plans or whatever you're looking for, ask Eric. He can help you out too. But very cool. Hopefully this is helpful. It's been fun passing all this on to you. Happy camping soon. Glad that you guys got to hang out, and can't wait for you guys to get in an RV. So save some money.